Most people think growth looks like achievement, a promotion, a bigger house, a better body, more followers, more money, more of everything that can be measured and displayed. But Buddha identified growth by completely different signs. Signs that have nothing to do with what you accumulate and everything to do with who you are becoming. In the next 8 minutes, I am going to share with you 8 signs that you are genuinely growing as a human being, even if your external circumstances have not yet caught up with your internal transformation. The first sign is that things that used to trigger you no longer do. Someone says something that 6 months ago would have sent you into a spiral of anger or anxiety, and today you notice it, breathe through it, and let it pass without it derailing your entire day. This is not indifference. This is mastery. Buddha called this the development of equanimity, the capacity to remain stable and composed regardless of what the external world throws at you. Every time you respond rather than react, every time you choose your response rather than being controlled by your impulse, you are growing in ways that no diploma can certify and no bank account can measure. The second sign is that your circle has changed, not because you became arrogant or superior, but because you genuinely outgrew certain dynamics. The conversations that used to entertain you now feel empty. The people who used to energize you now drain you. The environments that used to feel normal now feel suffocating. This is not snobbery. This is alignment. As you grow, as your values clarify and your self-awareness deepens, the things that are out of alignment with who you are become increasingly uncomfortable to be around. That discomfort is not a problem. It is a compass. Follow it. The third sign is that you have become genuinely comfortable with uncertainty. The person you were a year ago needed to know how things were going to turn out before they could feel okay. The person you are becoming understands that uncertainty is not a threat. It is the natural condition of a life being fully lived. Buddha taught that the demand for certainty is one of the primary sources of suffering, because certainty, in a world of constant change, is simply not available. Learning to move forward without guarantees, to commit without knowing the outcome, to trust the process even when you cannot see the destination, this is one of the most significant signs of genuine spiritual and psychological maturity. The fourth sign is that you have stopped explaining yourself to people who are not genuinely interested in understanding you. This is a quiet but profound shift. The person still in early growth feels compelled to justify every decision, defend every boundary, and convince every skeptic. The person genuinely growing has learned, through experience and reflection, that explanation is rarely necessary for the people who matter and rarely effective for the people who do not. You make your choices. You live your values. You need no tribunal. Buddha lived this completely. He never defended his path to those who questioned it. He simply walked it with such clarity and such consistency that eventually his example spoke louder than any argument ever could. The fifth sign is that solitude no longer frightens you. In fact, you have begun to crave it. Early in life, most people are terrified of being alone with themselves, because being alone with yourself means being alone with your thoughts, and for an unexamined mind, that is genuinely uncomfortable. But as you grow, as you do the work of self-examination, as you develop a genuine relationship with your own inner life, solitude transforms from a threat into a gift, into the place where your best thinking happens, where your truest insights arise, where you remember who you actually are beneath all the roles you play for everyone else. The sixth sign is that you have begun to genuinely celebrate other people's success without feeling diminished by it. This is rarer than you might think. Most people, even good people, carry a quiet, unacknowledged resentment when someone else succeeds in an area where they themselves feel lacking. It is a completely human response, but it is also a sign of a mind still operating from scarcity. The growing person understands, deeply and genuinely, that someone else's success does not take anything from theirs, that the universe is not operating a zero-sum game, that another person's light does not dim yours. When you can celebrate others freely and fully, without any shadow of comparison or resentment, you have crossed a threshold that most people never reach. The seventh sign is that your relationship with failure has fundamentally changed. The person you used to be was devastated by failure, avoided it at all costs, was defined by it when it happened. The person you are becoming sees failure as data, as feedback, as the most reliable teacher available. Buddha failed many times on his path to enlightenment. He tried extreme asceticism and nearly destroyed his body. He tried various teachers and found their teachings incomplete. He sat under the Bodhi tree having failed by every conventional measure, having given up wealth, family, and status for a path whose destination he had not yet reached. And from that place of apparent failure, everything he was seeking arrived. Failure is not the opposite of growth. It is one of its primary vehicles. The eighth and final sign is the most beautiful one. You have begun to act from love rather than fear. The decisions you used to make from fear, staying in the wrong job because you were afraid of uncertainty, tolerating mistreatment because you were afraid of being alone, silencing your truth because you were afraid of rejection, you are no longer making those decisions. Or at least, you are making them less often. And when you catch yourself making a fear-based choice, you recognize it now. You name it. And increasingly, you choose differently. Buddha's entire path was a movement from fear to love, from contraction to expansion, from the closed fist of self-protection to the open hand of genuine presence. That movement, that slow, consistent, imperfect but relentless movement, is what growth actually looks like from the inside. It does not always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like falling apart. Sometimes it looks like confusion. Sometimes it looks like loss. But it is always, always, moving you towards something more real, more free, and more genuinely alive than where you were before. Trust the process. You are growing, even now. Save this and share it with someone who needs to be reminded of how far they have come. Subscribe to Tathagata Wisdom, because every single day we bring you the wisdom that helps you see your own growth more clearly and trust your own path more deeply.